If you thought last week was big, I'll really say this is the Rams' most important week of the season. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView. Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the October 11th, 2023 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 206-6990 in the 661. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word. KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair, having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. All right, it is good to be here. And this game this week, let me just tell you, Ram fans get all worked up a lot about a lot of things, and I understand it. I understand it from the authentic Ram fans. I'm not necessarily, if you take 100% of the Ram fans, I think about 20% of them are authentic. But if you're going to have a meltdown this season, save it till about 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time this week, because if the Rams blow this game at home to the Cardinals, to a Cardinal team without their hammer, James Conner, then we'll know this team is nowhere near being a wild card contender. We know that there's no way that window is going to lift much this year. You cannot lose this game at home. It's not like the Rams are coming back from London, right? Yeah, everyone's got bumps and bruises, but we got no critical injuries. So, they've got to win this game. This is a game they cannot lose at home to the Cardinals. We're at that point in the year where the harsh reality of a team going nowhere needs to kind of just, hey, you know what? We're not going anywhere, and start playing for Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Shadur Sanders, or Quinn Ewers, or somebody else, because the Cardinals are that team. They've been inspired the first month of the season. They've played hard. They picked off a great win. But this is a team that sooner or later you run out of that energy, because there's just the stone cold reality that you're Liechtenstein going up against the Soviet Union. So, Rams need to win this one. Okay, just looking at some of the Rams stuff that's been popping up the last couple days. We're going to talk about Van Jefferson in a second. But one guy that's taking heat, and I was directing a little more heat towards Kobe Durant than Darian Kendrick. Darian Kendrick's low-hanging fruit for people to pick on. But Kobe Durant, he's played 233 snaps this year. 198 of those snaps has been as the slot corner. Last year total in 7 games, he played only 392 snaps, and only 167 of them were in the slot. This year, he's being used almost exclusively in the slot, and there's no balance to it. He is that guy. And the big difference there is a big difference between playing the slot and the boundary, or the wide corner. The reason they're called the boundary corner is because they have that sideline, and they could use that sideline to their benefit. Slot corners are usually tasked with guarding the best route runner on any given team. They're the third down option. It's third and Renfro, so to speak. And so I think there's less margin for error. But what they can't do is they can't miss tackles. And I think Kobe Durant is learning the position. I think he's going to get better. But the fundamental stuff, maybe what's happening in coverage is getting in his head, and he's been really inconsistent tackling. And that's the key thing here. And he is that guy. Witherspoon and Kendrick have not played a snap in the slot. And Quentin Lake has gotten 30 snaps there. He's the third safety. Isn't that interesting? Quentin Lake's the third safety with John Johnson on the roster. So it is hard, but this is the young aspect of the team. And I just don't think you give up on Kobe Durant, nor do you give up on Darian Kendrick. Again, I'll say it every week until people really say, amen, Joe. This is supposed to be the season of pain. And the season of pain says we're 2-3, about to go to 3-3. And then the Rams have legitimate shots. They have a legitimate shot against Pittsburgh at home. I'm not saying they're going to beat them 100%. So Steeler fan Rob, save your crying. But they have a legitimate shot at beating Pittsburgh at home. That was a game I wrote off as well, beginning of the spring. And we've seen this Cowboy team. We've seen them get manhandled in Frisco. We've seen them get beat up in Phoenix with James Conner and that Arizona offensive line. There's a real opportunity here for the Rams. And as struggles come, they're playing Monday night. We could see maybe a meltdown in this. Can you not see? Don't you have something's burning? And that's Dallas. Dallas feels like it's burning. Okay, hey, quick trivia question here for you. Rob Havenstein, Van Jefferson, and Tutu Atwell, what do they all have in common besides being Ram players? Ram players who were on the Super Bowl roster. Ram players, who at one time or another have all been various starters for the Rams. What do they all have in common? Rob Havenstein, Van Jefferson, and Tutu Atwell were all second-round picks and all taken 57th overall. And up until the start of this season, you would have said Atwell was the bust. And now Van Jefferson was sent packing. I just thought that was kind of interesting that all three of those guys were taken 57th overall. Van Jefferson, I liked Van Jefferson. There was nothing to hate about Van Jefferson. There was just nothing special about Van Jefferson. And I'm surprised a lot of people are up in arms about the trade. What are we going to do if there's an injury and everything? Hey, you could find a guy like Van Jefferson almost anywhere, right? And they usually go by the name Demarcus Robinson, right? And so Van Jefferson, again, there are so many wide receivers and great athletes coming into the draft that are playing wide receiver now, that you can find a Van Jefferson. Rams found a Puka Nacua in the 5th round, but you can find a Van Jefferson. There's so many guys hitting the free agent market. You can find a Van Jefferson, right? He wasn't going to be re-signed by the Rams. There was no way he was going to be re-signed by the Rams. And because of the glut of receivers that are going to be on the market and him having really no specialness, uniqueness to his game, decent hands, decent speed, doesn't run, for contested catches, gets exposed. Sometimes he rounds his routes a little bit instead of keeping them sharp. Chances are Rams weren't going to sign him, and that no one else was going to sign him in time for the Rams to earn a comp pick, right? Now the Rams at least acquired a 6th rounder for him. And we've seen Jordan Fuller was the 6th round pick. He became a starting safety. We've seen the contributions of players like Ben Skoranek for the Rams who've been contributors in the 7th round. And now the Rams did get something for Van Jefferson. And I don't think they need to get so worked up about it. People were worried about a potential injury to Kupp, Nacua, or Atwell. So now it's going to be Demarcus Robinson instead of Van Jefferson. Please tell me, what's the difference? Well, what is the difference? I just don't see any difference right now in these guys. Jefferson, outside of a foot race, couldn't even carry Ben Skoranek's jock. Hands, routes, blocking, versatility. Skoranek, right? 4 seasons with the club, Jefferson's carried the ball 4 times. Skoranek's carried it twice. There was nothing here. Good for Van Jefferson to get a shot in Atlanta, but we saw this. We saw this coming. We were talking about it on this show, and I'm not in the room, folks, okay? I hope I never give that impression. I'm not in the room, right? Although I had a chance to go work a game at SoFi this Monday night, and I can't go, but I'm not in the room. But you don't need to be in the room. You could be you looking at this Rams roster, knowing what your eyes are telling you. There was no place for Van Jefferson. 2 snaps on Sunday. There was no place for Van Jefferson on the squad, and he had to go. As we think about this week going forward, looking at the Rams right now, they're 2-3, and that trade deadline is October 31st. So we've got games on the 15th, 22nd, and 29th. That means the Rams have the Cardinals, Steelers, and then they go to Dallas on the 29th. That's the last game before the trade deadline. Currently, they're 2-3. Do the Rams have a path to win all three of those games? Absolutely. The Rams could be. This isn't a declaration, right? They could be 5-3 heading into Week 9 in Green Bay, and then when they come to that trading deadline, if they pull off a win in Dallas, if they're 5-3, they're going to have to make a tough call, because now this season is headed somewhere, as opposed to it's a season of pain, and we're just going to do our best showing to get ready for 2024 because we got all of our draft picks and we got all that cap space, right? Right now, Seahawks are 3-1. For the next 3 weeks, they get Cincy, Arizona, and Cleveland. And the Seahawks would be the first team in front of the Rams in regards to a playoff spot. Even though the Rams beat them, we know the Seahawks are a good team. If the Seahawks win 2 of those games, and they're 4-2 at this point, coming up to the trade deadline in the NFC West, it's going to be interesting to see what the Rams are thinking. Seahawks could be 4-2. Rams could be 5-3. And I guarantee you, if you finish second place in the NFC West, you're going to the playoffs. This isn't the NFC South or the AFC South. Cowboys and Seahawks are the two teams standing mostly in the Rams' way. Okay, you got the AFC South, which is kind of up in the air between New Orleans, Tampa, or Atlanta. The loser will be a low wild card berth, possibly. Even the division winner is not going to be a high-ranking team. Across the other parts of the NFC, the Packers are 2-3. Do they scare you? The Texans, they're 2-3. They shouldn't scare you. and so the Rams are in this hunt, and if they pull off, if they go 1-2, right? If they go 1-2 over the next 3 games, then I think they're standing pat. That means they'll be 3-5 heading into Green Bay. I think they can win in Green Bay, but I don't think they're going to make a move before the trade deadline. But if this team goes 2-1, which is a real possibility, that puts them at 4-4, and it's still kind of iffy because I think they can win in Green Bay. That means this team is still kind of iffy about what are they playing for this year. And those of us that have been optimistic said this could be a 9-win team. This could be a 9-win team. You win 9 games in the NFC, you are in the wild card hunt. And how marvelous. I just think it's awesome because once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. But in a season that's supposed to be the season of pain, the season that it's all fallen apart, the season when Vegas predicted the Rams winning 6 games, a lot of the experts were saying the Rams were going to win 4 games. To think that the Rams could potentially be buyers before the trade deadline and potentially be a wild card team, heck of a job. So let's just make sure we're happy and appreciating what the Rams are doing this year. And the other thing is save your meltdown. I will be the first in line with a meltdown if they lose to the Cardinals, right? Again, the Rams are a young team. They might make it more interesting than it should be. It could be 24-21 Rams. It could be 31-30 Rams when it should be 38-15 Rams. I'll give that prediction on Friday, but a win is a win is a win. And the Rams need to win this one. This is the one it's not negotiable. There's no, shucks, we tried. Short of Matthew Stafford being carted off the field with 5 minutes to play in the first quarter, heaven forbid, knock on Formica, the Rams can't lose this game. They lose this game, just close up shop, and let's play for next year. Let's see. Tim Burns, I will answer that question for you about at the break here when we're coming up. I get sidetracked, and I'm afraid if I start answering questions, I got other people that are going to send me jokes, and I don't want to be having a laugh fit when I'm doing this show. Right guard, Kevin Dotson, Joe Noteboom. It's Kevin Dotson, folks. It's Kevin Dotson. I like Noteboom, but Noteboom's dealing with a groin injury. He's dealt with other injuries this year. Let the dude heal up. It's a long season. I guarantee you right now, you're not going to see you're not seeing the last of Joe Noteboom unless something happens in practice. And get him healthy, get him healed up, get him some spot snaps at left tackle, right guard. So if somebody goes down, homeboy's ready to roll. And so, but right now you stay with the hot hand, the hot brawn, so to speak. Go with Kevin Dotson. The same could be said for Duke Shelley. It was interesting. Duke Shelley had about 9 snaps on Sunday. We were watching him. He was one of the guys that was making some plays in the end zone. we were sitting here in the RamView. That's Duke Shelley. And it wasn't THT, Travius Tomlinson, Hodges Tomlinson, THT. And that surprised me. But Shelley is a proven solid NFL coverage guy. I mean, high-end coverage guy. The rest of his game might not be rounded, but he does that. And his presence on the field is an indication of the Rams maybe, I don't want to say being impatient, but themselves believing, hey, we can't just give this away and use this as a learning experience for Tomlinson. Shucks, young guys learning his craft. We're already doing that with Kendrick and Kobe Durant. And Les Snead should be GM of the year. If Ahkello Witherspoon plays 17 games this year and stays at this pace, Les Snead's general manager of the year for signing that guy. But Duke Shelley, to me, his presence on the field kind of told me that, the Rams aren't good enough with just saying, hey, we're just getting everyone a learning experience here, that Shelley gives us a chance to maybe win some matchups and maybe win a game. And so it'll be interesting to see how much more he gets going forward. Rams injury update. Bobby Brown, that came out, MCL sprain. He's not lost for the year. McVay's been quoted as saying he thought he was gone for the year. Brown goes to injured reserve, likely gone, it said 5 to 7 weeks, which, again, that kind of follows up, DeJuan Johnson, Mr. Irrelevant this year, our Brock Purdy, so to speak, on the defensive line. He had thumb surgery, and he had just racked up, I think, 5 snaps in Cincy, 5 snaps in Indy, and he had thumb surgery. He's not on the IR, but there could be a possible depth issue. And just a reminder, Marquise Copeland and Keir Thomas are still both on the practice squad. Havenstein looked like he got his bell rung at the end of that Philly game. Everything about him is cool. He's got no issues. Coleman Shelton left the Philly game, and Brian Allen came in for the first time this year. Shelton was a finger injury, but he did come back to finish the game. Right now, word leaked today that Ernest Jones was held back from practice. He has swelling in his knee. Jones has been fantastic this year. The Rams signed the Rutgers free agent, Olakunle Fatukasi. Is that it? Yeah. He was an undrafted free agent. He's been in Tampa, been in Kansas City, been in New England. And, he's a practice squad guy. If he's playing ahead of Jake Hummel, then Jake Hummel shouldn't be on the roster. Also, he was signed because Austin Trammell was signed to the full 53. So Austin Trammell, you've seen him receiving punts the last couple weeks. So we talked about Ernest Jones, Joe Noteboom, Laurel Murchison, tender knee, Christian Roseboom, thigh. Even Kevin Dotson has an ankle and sclerotic lingering Achilles. So those are some of those other news out there. Around the NFL, the Vikings put Justin Jefferson on an IR. They're 1-4. Jefferson down. Maybe it's time for the Vikings to scale it back and get ready for the draft because they're not going to stay with Kirk Cousins, and they're headed to a rebuild. And Jefferson's not playing. I don't know, really. I guess there's some latitude, there's some room in that NFC North, but I don't think they're going to catch the Lions. And I don't know if they're much better than an 8-win team at this point. So maybe it is time to dial it back. Of course, we mentioned the Cardinals losing James Conner to a knee injury. That really hurts them because that guy's a bruiser, and he'd be a guy anyone would want on their team. Colts, we talked about Anthony Richardson. Let the young guys run. Let the young guys run. Let them do what they do. Yeah, right shoulder AC sprain. He's on IR. This was sad news. I didn't learn about this till this morning. Jets tackle, former USC guy, right? Elijah Vera Tucker, torn Achilles tendon, is on the IR. That is just awful. It's been so bad for the Jets this year. You take a step forward, you win on the road, and then you lose Tucker. Time for them to call in Fathers Marin and Karras and get whatever is infesting them, get that thing exercised. I thought this was funny. Not that Matt Milano broke a leg and went on the IR for the Bills, but Josh Norman was signed initially to the practice squad this week, and I think he's on the active roster now. I think Josh Norman, I mean, we're talking a decade ago, right? This was the guy it's been more than a minute since he's done anything in the NFL. And then the other one that was really interesting, because every time you see the Dolphins have a highlight, you see Devon Achane breaking a run, and he's on injured reserve for 4 weeks with his knee. So former Rams making news. Jake Funk signed as a practice squad Signed to the practice squad of the Dolphins because of Achan. Terrell Burgess, former number 3 pick, third-round pick of the Rams in 2020, the celebrated 2020 draft that everyone's talking about these days. He was promoted to the active roster by the Taxskins, and they need the help. Texans themselves released Lance McCutcheon from the practice squad, their practice squad. The Packers released and then re-signed former Ram Justin Hollins and Sean Mannion, former Ram quarterback, drafted in the 3rd round. He was the last quarterback the Rams drafted. I think was he drafted after? Yeah, I think he was drafted after. No, I think he was drafted the year before. He was the only other quarterback outside of Jared Goff the Rams drafted before Stetson Bennett. He was re-signed by the Vikings to their practice squad because they lost Nick Mullins to the IR. Okay, it is break time, and one of the things we're going to do
Stay in your lane, bro.
That is absolutely what we're going to do. Do you know what we do here? We do Rams talk, and because I have my my other job, Burbank Faith Virtual. Some people want me to ask me what I think about the ongoing crisis in the world, and
stay in your lane, bro.
And that's exactly what I'm going to do. No one clicks on to RamView, this Ramcast, the podcast, to hear me give my opinion about the war between Israel and Gaza. You can do that privately with me. I don't even really talk about it when I'm preaching online or I'm in the pulpit. Not that I don't have opinions, not that I don't respect yours, but no one clicks on here for me to talk about that stuff. And so just letting everyone know in advance because, in response to one, but in advance to everyone else that thinks that. I'm totally aware that our world's in a difficult place. I'm totally aware there's dangerous stuff out there. I'm totally aware of all of that. My hope is someplace else than the federal government. My hope is above, but that's about it. I want to talk football. We're here to talk football, so that's what we're going to talk about. I don't want to bait and switch anybody. So just want to let you guys know that. I am Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years. I write books, and I do RamView, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law, and of course, Temple City Auto. And the books I write, they're available on Amazon. This is Tangent Dreams. It was the first novel I wrote back in 2015, 2016, and it was received very well, did very well. And you could find that on Amazon. It's also available on Kindle. Just type in my name. You can type in Tangent Dreams, or you could type in Joe Terosian, and all my books will come up. I have 2 high school football novels, and they were well received. They actually did pretty well sales-wise. And then I've got about 5 other books that are of Christian nature, mostly fiction, and that lets you know what my day job is. I am the pastor of a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene, and this work I do allows me to stay in that position. I work for Burbank Faith Nazarene. I pastor that church. Also, you can catch us. We are right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, and you can check us out on that channel, as well as Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media, and of course our website, burbankfaithvirtual.com. So thank you for your support, and folks have clicked on and really have helped us out quite a bit. Now, let's see. Steeler fan Rob in Missouri says, "Go Steelers." Yeah, I think both of us should just go on radio silence that week, Steeler fan Rob, because I don't think we're going to make any of us happy, and we're going to see what's going to happen there. Tim Burns, we needed to clear out a wide receiver, and Van Jefferson doesn't scare DBs. Absolutely astute, Mr. Burns, up there in NorCal. There was nothing unique about what Jefferson brought. And there was opportunity for him to step up and be the number 2 guy. There was opportunity to be the number 1 guy. It's kind of hard last year to do it when everyone went out because you didn't have a quarterback. He had a nice little connection with Baker Mayfield down the stretch last year, but there just wasn't anything special. Puka Nacua comes in as a 5th rounder, and he becomes the lead guy over the 4th year Jefferson. Right in week 1. And even before that, along with that, Nacua becomes the number 1 while Cup is out. And then Tutu Atwell, who prevented the Rams in Ram world because he prevented the Rams from drafting Creed Humphrey, the greatest Ram who never played for the team. And even Tutu Atwell, labeled a bust, was the number 2 receiver And so, yeah, there was no progression. Jefferson is a number 3 receiver in the NFL. If you can break out of that, great. He seems like a good person. You want good things to happen to him, but he had no future here in LA. He rode that train as long as he could. He picked up a ring, so good for him. And just let me head off a few other things you're going to hear as Tutu Atwell's production probably dips a little bit in the coming weeks, because you do have a healthy Kupp, you do have a healthy Nakua. You might not see Atwell getting targeted. His targets dropped from 9 to 8, and then this week down to 5. And people are going to say, "Hey, what's wrong with Tutu Atwell?" Well, look who he's sandwiched in between Nakua and Kupp. But really happy to have Tutu Atwell out there, because I'll tell you one thing Tutu Atwell has that Kupp and Nakua do too. Tutu Atwell has hands, manos de pegamento, hands of glue. He has real good hands. Hey, last ad on that 2020 Rams draft. In 2020, the Rams drafted Cam Akers in the second round, Van Jefferson in the second round, 51st and 57th, respectively. In the third round, they took Terrell Lewis and Terrell Burgess. Fourth round, Bryson Hopkins. Sixth round, Jordan Fuller. In the seventh round, Clay Johnston, Sam Sloman, and Tremaine Ankrum. Okay, well, Terrell Lewis, bust. Get him out of here. Terrell Burgess, there was a few moments there you thought, this is going to be the guy. And then Jordan Fuller just leapfrogged right over him. And you could see it. Burgess has been with the Giants, didn't even get on the field for the Giants, anything more than special teams. He was cut by the Taxkins this year, put back on their practice squad and just elevated. Really liked Terrell Burgess, but it didn't work out for him either. Clay Johnston was a guy that he was the linebacker kid that when you were watching at the end of 2020, you were watching the Hard Knocks episodes. Rams cut him. They were going to put him on the practice squad, and he decided to go to Carolina and play for some family member instead. He went to their practice squad. He made the field in Carolina and I think a little bit in Cincy in 2021. But as of right now, he is out of the NFL. Sam Sloman, we're thankful that he is no longer near town. And Tremaine Ankrum, who is still on the team, along with Bryson Hopkins. Now, people are going to say, Bryson Hopkins is kind of a bust. I guess you can say that. He didn't turn into Gerald Everett. But one thing I will say about Bryson Hopkins is the guy that got the seal block on the fourth down jet sweep to Cooper Kupp on that last drive that won the Rams the Super Bowl. And if anyone gets the seal block on fourth down on a jet sweep on the Rams' final drive to win the Super Bowl, that if that doesn't happen, we don't even get the iconic no-look pass to Cooper Kupp. It doesn't even happen. So Bryce Hopkins, to me, is a Ram hero. He will always be a Ram hero. And that's why I don't consider the 2020 draft a bust. Also, you still have Jordan Fuller, a sixth rounder you weren't supposed to get jack out of, and you got a lot out of Jordan Fuller. And of course, Tremaine Ankrum is a solid backup at guard. I think his days of chances of starting for the Rams are about over, but he is still on the roster, and this team believed in him, and they kept bringing him back. So before you just come out and say with everyone else, it's like, oh, that 2020 draft was a bust. Hey, Cam Akers and Van Jefferson were on the 2021 Super Bowl team. They contributed. Bryson Hopkins made the key block. Jordan Fuller was a starter that year until he got hurt late, and that led to the Eric Weddle return. And Tremaine Ankrum is still there. So is it the 74 draft of the Steelers? No. Is it the 65 draft of the Bears where they back-to-back drafted Butkus and Gale Sayers? No. But Cam Akers, Van Jefferson, they contributed. Bryson Hopkins is contributing, has made the big contribution. Jordan Fuller is still a starter. Tremaine Ankrum. I can think of worse drafts. My college football top 10, based on what I've seen, I have elevated Oregon Ducks to number 1, Washington Huskies number 2. I had to do it. I saw Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel was awesome. I moved them to number 3. I was really rooting against Ohio State against Maryland because I wanted to see Ryan Day blame Lou Holtz again. But I put them at 4, Alabama at 5. The only reason I did that, is I can't stand watching USC's defense. Last 3 games, really, it was all up to Caleb Williams to pull the rabbit out of the hat. And now they're going into South Bend. They've got Oregon. They've got Washington. They've got UCLA. Their only break in the schedule is Cal, but I'm going to guess before this season is over, at some point, Caleb Williams is going to take a hit. He's going to take a hit, and the Trojans are going to lose a couple of these games. Now, remember, they're going to South Bend. The Irish season is over. They're not going to play for a national title. But you know what salvages an Irish season? A derailment of USC, right? And if they hadn't pulled out the green jerseys for Ohio State, I would think they would have gone Jerry Faust and pulled out the green jerseys for USC. They're going to be, I'm not saying SC is going to lose just yet. Weather's going to be bad, but yeah, SC, they're cruising for a bruising. And hey, I got an idea. I know Lincoln Riley watches the show often. It's called Marshawn Lloyd, dude. It's called Marshawn Lloyd. Stop joking around with these other backs and get that kid 25 to 30 carries in South Bend, take some pressure off your quarterback, and then free up some passing lanes for him because you're running the ball so well, and stop trying to be the smartest guy in the room. Okay. Oregon State, 5-1. I got them at 7. I had to put Florida State back in the top 10. I didn't want to. I don't think they're as good as everyone says. I left Ole Miss in at number 9. I'm a Jackson Dart guy. I dropped Texas from number 1 to number 10 because, come on, Sark, you got to win those games. Gone from the top 10, Washington State. They lost that game to UCLA. Notre Dame, close to being in the top 10, is an unimpressive North Carolina team, a Utah team that's got to get Cam Rising back, okay? Big games this week, USC, Notre Dame, Oregon, Washington. Oregon is going up to Husky Stadium, and so that's going to be a big one, Oregon and Washington this week. Can you imagine? You got 3 Pac-10 teams playing 2 of the biggest games in the country this year, and there's not going to be a Pac-12. There's not going to be a Pac-12 next year. Miami's at North Carolina, and you got to wonder what Mario Cristobal is thinking. Right now, he must be still popping the Maalox, feeling pretty sick. And then on a lesser extent, back here on the West Coast, you have UCLA going up to Corvallis to play Oregon State. And that's an important game. I would really, the team that comes out of this game, it's going to be really impressive to watch because Oregon State has played well and UCLA's only loss has been to Utah. So yeah, I'm interested in those games. Getting back to Cardinals Rams this week. Excited about the Cardinal Ram games because this is the big game. Good news is McVay has owned the Cardinals. I think he's something like 13-2, 11-2, including the playoff win. McVay has owned the Cardinals like the 49ers have owned the Rams during the regular season. Their secondary is not great. They have a decent offensive line. They used to be able to, they could move the ball on the ground, but they've also lost James Conner. And so opportunity for the Rams here. Opportunity for the Rams. We're not going to like it if it's a 31-30 win or a 24-21 win, but we're going to like it. They just have to win. I can see the Rams winning this game 38-14. It's at home. I can see the air kind of coming out of the old college try Cardinals. The Cardinals have played really hard for their new head coach. They haven't rolled over, but they just, the spirit is willing, but at this point now the flesh is weak. Looking at week 6, the Steelers and Packers are on a bye, future Ram opponents within the month. Thursday, we got the Broncos Chiefs. Yeah, Broncos, man. I think the funnest thing is every time something bad happens to the Broncos, you see Russell Wilson. Everyone's wanting to see the Russell Wilson-Sean Payton connection going off the field. I still think the Chiefs are cruising for a bruising, but in KC, we don't know. I guess Travis Kelce's questionable, which means he'll play. So we'll see how that works out. Bad mojo, man. Chiefs are going to win this one, but Taylor Swift is there. I'm going to give the Chiefs 31-7 in this one. There you go. I said it. Chiefs 31-7. And if I'm right about it, I'm going to come back on Friday and I'm going to talk about it left and right. Okay. Other predictions. Ravens are at the Titans. I have the right to change these on Friday, but I think the Ravens are going to bounce back. I have no faith in the Titans. Commanders, Falcons. In Atlanta, I'm going Commanders. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to go Commanders because I don't know if Desmond Ridder is good enough to exploit that Washington defense. Vikings, Bears. I'm going to go with the Bears. I'm just thinking right now, Vikings are 1-4. It's in Soldier Field. I'm going to go with the Bears, just kind of feeling their oats a little bit after that win in Washington. Seahawks, Bengals. I'd love for the Bengals to win this game. It would really be good for the Rams if the Bengals won this game. But I think the Seahawks are playing really good football, and I don't think the Seahawks are going to go brain dead on the coaching staff side the way the Rams went brain dead and gave that game away to the Bengals. So I'm going to take the Seahawks in Cincy. 49ers, Browns, they're already talking about P.J. Walker starting, not even DTR. And you're not even talking about Deshaun Watson. How much are you giving that guy? 230 rocks? Let's just hope Myles Garrett can inflict some pain on that 49ers team, wear them down. The one thing I will say is the 49ers look absolutely great, but the Super Bowl is not played in October. And I don't know if they can sustain it. I got a feeling the war of attrition, which is an 18-week, 17-game season, could catch up to them. So Saints, Texans, I am believing in C.J. Stroud even after the loss last week. I am going Texans at home. Colts, Jaguars, hey, there's no Anthony Richardson, right? Let the kid run. Now he can't play. You got the stash. But I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I think they're getting on track. Obviously, they are after starting 1-2. Dolphins, Panthers. Yeah, we know what that is. Panthers, I keep hearing about how he needs help. There's not enough help there for Bryce Young. It's not fair to judge him right now, but it's certainly fair to judge Daniel Jones with the Giants, right? It's certainly fair to see a guy that's been sacked, 30 times in the last 3 weeks. I'm a little hyperbole there, but you know what I mean. It's fair to judge him when he has absolutely nothing either. I'm telling you, Bryce Young looks overwhelmed, and they put more points on the board with Andy Dalton. So there is some talent there, but the Dolphins are going to roll them. Patriots, Raiders. What can you say? What can you say? They have a better chance bringing Steve Grogan out of retirement than probably winning this game. And I hope for the Patriots' sake, who I never really hated the Patriots, despite 2 Super Bowl victories over the Rams. I never really hated them. I hope for their fan base sake, for Robert Kraft's sake, I hope Josh McDaniels, which it's a long stretch, they can find a way to drop a 40 burger on the Patriots and really put this season out of its misery and then cause them to say, you know what, Bill, we'll rename the stadium, Belichick Field, Belichick this, but you need to go, dude. You need to go. You look like Willie Mays in 73. Eagles, Jets, yeah, right? It's in the Meadowlands or whatever they call that stadium now. Eagles are going to roll. Lions, Buccaneers. Lions need payback here. They're going into Tampa Bay, the only team to hand them a loss this year, hand it to them at home. I hope the Lions are awake. They need to go in there in Tampa Bay, crush the Bucs, and establish themselves as a legitimate power in the NFC. And, of course, we talked about Cardinals, Rams. Giants are playing the Bills on Sunday night. And when you see the Giants now, this is this is week 6, right? They've played 5 games. I think I've seen them on national TV, 3 times? Monday night, Thursday night. I'm always seeing the Giants, right? And here's the funny thing that you got to know. How bad did the NFL think the Rams were going to be this year? How bad did they think they were going to be? So bad that they eliminated all the national, really, I think the only Rams have 2 national broadcasts this year, in those Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night windows, because the Rams weren't going to be any good. And they've got the Giants. You're seeing them almost every week. I thought the idea of bringing in all the networks and everything was to flex out of these dogs. And we're going to be subject to the Giants this week again against the Bills. Again, I hope the Bills put them out of their misery. I do not know if Daniel Jones is going to play, but poor Tyrod Taylor, if he has to come in and play behind that offensive line. Cowboys, Chargers. Chargers should win this. They got a Cowboy team reeling. In fact, I think there's huge pressure on Brandon Staley. If Dak Prescott and the less than spectacular CeeDee Lamb and that less than spectacular Cowboys team has the ability to get well and feel good about itself coming into SoFi, which will be a home game for them, if they feel good coming in there and they get well and they beat the Chargers, please, can we just, for Justin Herbert's sake, right? For Justin Herbert's sake, can you just fire Brandon Staley? Good guy. He's going to have his dough. We're not putting anyone out in the street. But we've seen this. We've seen this show, and you can't lose at home, Chargers. You're going to get Austin Eckler back. You can't let the Cowboys breathe. You can't. They are starting to, you can smell it. There's some smoke. There's some fire. Prescott is not getting better. In fact, Prescott has flatlined. CeeDee Lamb, we talked about this a week or so ago. He's not a number one. This team's not looking good. And so they lost their number one. Well, yeah, I think their number one corner. They got issues, and Justin Herbert's just the guy to exploit it as long as Brandon Staley doesn't get in the way. Okay, so we're at the 40-minute mark. I need to let you folks go. Happy birthday to Brian Allen. He turns 28 today. Also, on this day, October 11th, 1976, the 49ers came into the Coliseum with Jim Plunkett on a Monday night, blacked out, of course, and we listened to it on the radio. James Harris was sacked 10 times that game, injured his shoulder, and that really opened the door for Pat Hayden to come in. Now, Harris came back, played some good quarterback there, led the NFC in passing, but the Rams brass had fallen in love with Pat Hayden. Big mistake, but they did. And it was never quite the same for Harris after those 10 sacks in terms of his starting position. And by the next year, he was gone to San Diego. On this date, in 1981, the Rams beat the Falcons 37-35 in a shootout at Fulton County Stadium. Saw this game. Jeff Rutledge came in the game, replaced Hayton, threw 2 touchdown passes. I really liked Jeff Rutledge. I felt he never got a real shot with the Rams, became a career backup, won a ring, I think, in New York, and he won a ring in Washington. Quality player. But the real breakout star in that game was second-year cornerback LeRoy Irvin, who returned 2 punts for touchdowns, returned punts for 207 yards. 207 yards in that 37-38 game. That improved the Rams' record to 4-2 that year in 81. That was, of course, the year the 49ers caught fire. And I remember it looked like the Rams still had a shot, and then they collapsed. They lost. They only won 2 of their next 10 games. They went 2-8 the rest of the way, finished 6-10, and missed the playoffs for the first time since 1972. And then they doubled down on that, and they brought Ray Malavasi back, and well, that's what eventually led to John Robinson in 83. So I just wanted to get that out there. And I think we're good. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we got it in. I think we did the show.
It was a stone groove.
It was a stone groove. I want to thank everybody for clicking on and those that are going to click on later. But this has been RamView. And if you have any questions or stuff, just let me know. I'd love to answer questions. I'd love it if you could hit the subscribe button. I'd love it if you could hit some likes, leave some comments to keep us in the algorithm. And please check us out on Spotify, because we need help on Spotify. We've got a small little bit of life there, but we need help on Spotify. Someone asked me, Joe, do you do a podcast? And I said, I think I do a Rams cast. My Spotify numbers aren't good enough to call it a podcast. But thank you all for your support, and go Rams. Enjoy the game Thursday night, and we will be talking Ram football and NFL football on Friday. God bless, take care, and we will talk to you soon.